Today, we need to talk about Anthony Bourdain because I'm sure by now you have heard the news that Anthony took his life at just the age of 61. Since I first read the news about Anthony Bourdain, I've been doing a lot of reading about him, reading from people who really were inspired by him, people who were touched by his life, touched by the perspective, the poetic way that he looked at the world. He came out of left field and he changed the tone of the conversation and the perspective of how people looked at the world in a way that inspired me. When I first saw his program, No Reservations, I was blown away and I was hooked. I watched it incessantly. Something about what I saw in Anthony's work was something that connected to me, something that gave me an inspiration about the position that I was in. I, like Anthony, have spent a lot of time overseas. I visited other countries. I grew up in another country, and so when I see the world, I see it through a very different lens than what most people in North America see it from. And when I saw the work of Anthony Bourdain, I was inspired because up until Anthony Bourdain came along, television of the world was really about beautiful beaches and mountains and resorts or maybe grandiose adventures like a climbing Mount Everest or sailing across the Pacific. And those are wonderful things and great to see, but Anthony brought the everyday person up and highlighted them and talked to them. The food of everyday people, the music, and the life that people live from day to day. I love the way his writing would make a connection between the everyday of Hong Kong or of Kenya or of South Africa or of cities in Europe to the everyday of America. And so seeing his work, seeing his show really inspired me to say, how can I do that too? I am in a position, I have been allowed to be in a position where I too can make that connection. And I don't, and while I can't say that Anthony was my only inspiration, but I can say that without the inspiration of Anthony Bourdain, I probably wouldn't have set out on my adventure around the world in 80 hours or my series that I did in Jerusalem called 3. And then continued to use the opportunity I had through the work that I've been blessed with to try and deepen the perspective, to use image and sound and words in a way that wasn't just surface level. I gotta be honest, in the last couple of years, I've watched his work less and less. I do believe that his programs on CNN was the culmination of the visuals and the storytelling on there. I think represented him better than anything he had done prior to that. However, I began to notice the difference between how I saw the world and how he saw the world. But it seemed to come from a perspective of a glass half empty, not half full. And that seemed to be where I differed. I really don't want to dig into the details of that here, but enough to say that I felt like I had gleaned what I needed to from, and I needed to go and find my own voice. Because Anthony's voice was so well defined, I felt like that is what I needed to do. And in many ways, despite some of the awesome things that I have done and I've posted on this channel, I still feel like I'm trying to find that. But I do know that I see the world in a slightly more positive way than I felt. I think the future is bright. I know that it doesn't always seem that way. But I believe that when you take the time to dig in and see the world, when you take the time to go and walk the streets, when you take the time to go beyond the places in the world that we all have on our bucket list, like the Eiffel Tower or Machu Picchu. But scratch beneath the surface there's another hope. There is another taste that we can, excuse me, there is a taste of a world that is coming up that I think will be better than the world we leave behind, but only if we can tell those stories, but only if we can shape a conversation that sees that and doesn't see the doom and the gloom that seems to come at us from every turn on the TV today, on the Twitter today, on whatever form of information that you're getting your news from, that you're hearing your conversation about the world. And so that's why I felt like I had to talk about Anthony today. It hit me really hard when I saw that he had passed away. And I really wondered what was in his mind in those last few minutes and few hours on this earth. Because whatever it was, it didn't seem to be one of hope. And I hope that's not true. I don't know. But I'm going to continue to try to find the stories and tell the stories and look for the places in this world that is showing us, that can connect us, that can show us the movement towards a more hopeful world. From Paris to Peru, from Seattle to Senegal. I don't know where it will take me, and I don't know exactly how my voice will shape in that process. This channel is really small right now, but I'm going to keep uploading. I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to keep working because it's an endeavor that's worth it. But I don't want to be alone. I want you to come along with me. I want you to tell your own stories. It doesn't have to be just my stories. I know you have yours, and I would really appreciate it if you would comment with your own thoughts below, or some perspective, or maybe start your own channel. I don't know. But I'll be back in a couple of weeks on the Kinetic Village. So until then, have a good one.